My name is Claire Bennett, I'm 34 years old, and 3 months ago, I found my husband's birth certificate, and he wasn't listed as his parents' son. I stared at the screen so long the laptop dimmed itself. My hands were shaking. Downstairs, I could hear him laughing at something on TV, no idea his entire identity had just cracked open on my computer. I remember whispering, "That's not possible," to an empty room. I had a folder saved already, screenshots, records, a name I didn't recognize yet, but would never forget. Before I tell you what actually happened, if you're new here, please like this video and subscribe. And drop a comment, where are you watching from? Because what I found next didn't just break a family tree. It broke a marriage built on a line nobody even knew they were telling. Let me take you back to when it all started. I started my family tree on a Tuesday night. Nothing special. Just me, a glass of juice, and a genealogy app I downloaded on a whim. I typed in my name first. Then my parents. Then his, David. My husband of 6 years. I found his mother's side fast. Baptism records. School photos someone had uploaded. Easy. His father's side was slower. I searched the name David always used, Whitfield. Nothing matched past 1974. I tried a variation. Still nothing. I switched to the county archive instead, typed in his birth year, his hometown. One result loaded. A scan certificate, edges yellowed, ink faded but readable. I clicked it, expecting his name. I got a stranger's. Same birth date. Same hospital. Different parents entirely. I sat back. Read it twice. Told myself the scanner glitched, that old records get mixed up all the time. I almost closed the tab. My cursor hovered over the X. Then I noticed the mother's signature at the bottom, and the address underneath it. 6 streets from where David grew up. I didn't close the tab. I saved the address and opened a new tab. Public record search. I typed it in, hit enter, and a name popped up, Margaret Ellery. Head of household, 1974. I didn't recognize it. David's mother's name was Diane. I checked the certificate again. Margaret was listed as the baby's mother. Not Diane. Not even close. I grabbed my phone and texted my sister-in-law, casual, like it was nothing. Hey, random question, did your mom ever live near Route 9? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. No, why? I didn't answer right away. I opened David's baby album instead, the one his mom gave us at our wedding. First page, a hospital bracelet, taped down, laminated. I held it under my desk lamp. The last name on it wasn't Whitfield. It wasn't Ellery either. It was a third name. One I'd never heard anyone in his family say out loud. I photographed it before I could talk myself out of it. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. David's footsteps. I closed the laptop so fast the screen cracked at the corner. Working late? David asked, leaning in the doorway. Genealogy stuff, I said, keeping my voice flat. He smiled, said something about his grandmother being a hoarder of old photos, then went to bed. I stayed up. I zoomed into the bracelet photo until the letters blurred, then sharpened again. Same 3 letters, over and over. Not a typo. Not a smudge. I opened a new tab and searched the third name alongside the county. One obituary loaded. 2003, a woman named Louise. Survived by 1 son. Born the same year as David. Same month. I copied his birthday into the search bar just to check. It matched exactly. My stomach dropped. I told myself hospitals mislabel things. Nurses swap forms. It happens. I almost believed it. Then I found a second document, a hospital discharge form, scanned from a local archive project. 2 babies listed, born hours apart, same ward. One line had been corrected with a strike-through. I leaned closer. The correction wasn't done in pen. It was typed. Someone fixed this file after the fact, and I needed to know who. I brought it up over breakfast, casual, like I was talking about the weather. Hey, did your mom ever mention a woman named Louise? David's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Where'd you hear that name? Not who, not why. Just where. I told him I found something online, a distant relative maybe. He shook his head fast. Never heard of her. But his knee started bouncing under the table, the way it does during arguments. I let it go. Later that day, I called his mother instead, keeping my tone light. Doing some family tree stuff, I found a hospital record that looked a little mixed up. Anything weird happen when David was born? Silence. 3 full seconds. Then, why are you asking me this? Not confused. Guarded. I said I was just curious. She said she had to go, something about the oven, and hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding a dead phone line. David's mother never cooks before noon. I opened my laptop again, typed Louise's name into the search bar, and this time added one more word, adoption. No adoption papers came up. Just a name, a town, and a gap where records should have been. I searched Louise's obituary again, slower this time. One line caught me, predeceased by her husband, Thomas, and her infant son. Infant son. Not son. Infant. I sat with that word a long time. David wasn't an infant when he died, he was 34, asleep upstairs. I cross-checked county birth logs from that year. 2 boys born the same night, same hospital, same ward. One record showed a death within days. The other just stopped. No further entries. No adoption filing. No name change on file. I started keeping a folder on a flash drive instead of my laptop, hiding it in my sock drawer like evidence in a crime I hadn't solved yet. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then I found a name in the hospital ledger I hadn't seen before, a night nurse, initials only, signing off on both charts within the same 10 minutes. I zoomed in on her signature. It matched the correction on the discharge form. Someone inside that hospital knew exactly what happened that night. I didn't tell David what I was doing. I told him I wanted to do a DNA kit for fun, a bonding thing, matching couples' results. He laughed, said sure, spit in the tube without hesitation. I mailed both kits the same day, but I paid extra for mine to process first. 6 days later, my results loaded. Ancestry breakdown, distant cousins, the usual. I scrolled to the bottom, to a section I almost skipped, close family matches. One name sat there, unconnected to anything I recognized. A man named Gregory. Half-sibling. Not mine. His account was linked to an email, still active. I didn't message him yet. I waited for David's results instead, watching the processing bar for 2 more days like it might change something. When his loaded, I opened it before he got home from work. Same surname. Same half-sibling. Same Gregory. My hands went cold. I heard the garage door open downstairs. David was home 10 minutes early. I had 6 tabs open, a stranger's name glowing on the screen, and no time to explain any of it before he walked through that door. I slammed the laptop shut, but David saw the light through the cracks of the screen before it closed. "What was that?" he asked, setting his keys down slow. I told him everything, fast, no warm-up, the birth certificate, the the bracelet, Louise, Gregory, the DNA match. He didn't yell. He just went quiet, sat down at the kitchen table, and asked me to open the laptop again. I did. He read the match himself, scrolled through Gregory's profile, then sat back like the air left his lungs all at once. "That's not possible," he said, the same words I'd whispered weeks ago. I showed him the discharge form, the strike-through, the nurse's initials. He stared at it a long time before speaking again. "My mom told me I was born early. Sick. In an incubator for 2 weeks. I asked if he'd ever seen proof of that. He said no. Just her story, repeated every birthday like a bedtime tale." He looked up at me, pale, and said one sentence that changed the rest of that night. "What if I'm not who buried my grandparents?" We stayed up until 3 a.m. building a timeline on the kitchen table, papers spread out like a crime board. 2 babies. 1 ward. 1 nurse. 1 correction. David kept circling back to the same question: was it a mistake, or was it done on purpose? I pulled up hospital staffing records from that decade, searching for scandals, lawsuits, anything. One local news archive loaded a headline from 1975, "County Hospital Faces Inquiry Over Maternity Ward Errors." No names mentioned. Just a vague statement about administrative corrections and a settlement paid quietly. David read it twice, jaw tight. "So people knew," he said. "And nobody said anything." I found a second article, smaller, buried on page 6, a mother demanding answers about a swapped bassinet tag, dismissed by hospital officials as a clerical confusion. No follow-up story existed. The trail just stopped, like someone made sure it would. David pushed the papers away and stood up, pacing the kitchen. "I need to talk to my mom," he said. "Tonight." I checked the clock. It was 3:40 in the morning. David didn't wait for morning. He called his mother at 3:45 a.m., voice tight, holding the phone on speaker without asking me first. She picked up on the second ring, too fast for someone who'd been sleeping. "David, what's wrong?" He didn't soften it. "Who is Louise Ellery?" Silence stretched so long I thought the call dropped. Then she exhaled, slow, like she'd been waiting years for this exact question. "Where did you find that name?" Not "who is she?" "Where did you find it?" David repeated the question, sharper this time. Finally, she said, "Come over." Not on the phone. We drove there at 4 a.m., streetlights empty, neither of us speaking. She met us at the door in her robe, eyes red like she'd already been crying before we arrived. She sat David down at her kitchen table, the same table he'd eaten breakfast at his whole childhood, and said, "There's something I should have told you 30 years ago." David gripped my hand under the table. I felt his pulse racing against my fingers. She took a breath and finally began. "You weren't born sick," she said. "You were born fine. It was the other baby who was sick." David didn't move. She kept going, voice shaking. 2 boys, same night. Louise's son was struggling to breathe. Mine was healthy. The nurse, she made a decision. Said it would be easier for the sick one to go home with someone who already had experience, resources. She said it was temporary. A mix-up to sort out later. Later never came. David asked. His mother shook her head. By the time we questioned it, paperwork was filed. Names were set. We were told fixing it would hurt both families more than helping. "So you just kept me," David said flatly. "We loved you," she said. That part was never a lie. David stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. But everything else was. He walked outside without his coat. I followed him into the cold, found him standing under the porch light, staring at nothing. "I have a brother," he said quietly. A real one. And I don't even know his name. His name was Gregory. The same Gregory from the DNA match, still alive, 60 miles away. David didn't sleep that week. He kept opening Gregory's profile, typing messages, deleting them before sending. I found him at 2 a.m. one night, laptop glowing, message box empty except for one line, I think we might be brothers. He finally hit send before he could stop himself. Gregory replied within an hour. He'd been searching too, had a bracelet, a mismatched adoption story, a mother who died with unanswered questions. They arranged to meet at a diner, neutral ground, both bringing folders like evidence for a trial neither of them asked to be part of. I watched from the car as David walked in first. A man near the back stood up too fast, knocking his coffee sideways. They stood there, staring, matching jawlines under fluorescent lights. Neither said anything for almost a full minute. Then Gregory said, "You have mom's eyes." David's hand started shaking. He sat down across from a stranger who shared his blood, his birthday, and 34 years he could never get back. David and Gregory talked for 4 hours that first day. Then again the next week. And the week after that. It wasn't instant. There were awkward silences, cancelled calls, a birthday David almost forgot to acknowledge. But slowly, photos started appearing on David's phone, the two of them at a bar, at a football game, standing side by side like a bad photocopy finally lining up. His mother apologized more than once. David forgave her in pieces, not all at once. Some days he was fine. Other days he'd go quiet, staring at his baby album like it belonged to someone else. I never regretted opening that genealogy app. Not once. Even on the nights David sat on the edge of our bed asking who he really was, I told him the same thing every time, the same man I married, just with more family than he started with. Last month, Gregory came over for dinner for the first time. He brought his kids. David's kids called him Uncle Greg like they'd known him their whole lives. Some family trees don't just grow. Sometimes, they finally get planted right.